Okay, so one of the things that there's this weird thing going on that we're fixing, that President Obama's fixing, which we used to think like there were tech people and there's the government. And in the government, there were also tech people, but they were buried or they were only contractors. And so what the president could see was that in the kind of senior meeting rooms, he didn't have people like us. So we might be deciding net neutrality and there barely be a computer scientist in the room. And that doesn't mean you only want a computer scientist, but it's one of the seats, like an economist, an operator, lawyers, others. And so like a faculty of a university, you want to have all of the team, all of the American team fielded. And so things were happening in our government, and it's not like we've had an amazing tradition of having tech in government for our whole history. President Washington started the Army Corps of Engineers. Like, we have always done this, it's part of us. If you look at all the founders, the mothers and fathers, you can look, they're all multidimensional, right? They're not afraid of tech. They fly kites and figure out electricity, or they, like that. It's really a broad set. And then we somehow as a country get into this idea of tech people and not tech people. And suddenly government kind of narrows, and all of us are in the vendor land or buried. And so the architecture gets super messed up. So that's what the president is fixing. And so what we really hope for, which is why we want to talk to you guys, is that we would think of ourselves as triathletes, that we might spend a lot of time in sort of the commercial, startup, big company, whatever, sort of this sector that has a slightly more for-profit scale of it. It doesn't have to. That sector that's more nonprofit, philanthropy, maybe academic, the .org sector, and then the .gov sector. And that the .gov sector has us like Surgeon General types. Like, think, you don't want all the doctors to come in government, but you would like a Surgeon General, a head of the CDC, because they will bring the right architecture and they'll ask the right questions as you're deciding to do something. And so that's a lot of what's so exciting is people may not all be from the United States. If you guys aren't, is this happening all over the world? And it might feel like I don't feel that yet, and it's because it's sort of similar to 1997 in the internet days, when everybody's like, well, nice CB radio you guys are making, but like we're busy over here. And then the internet started, right, at scale, the commercial, consumer, internet and mobile and stuff. So it's a little bit quiet, but Estonia, Kenya, UK, France, Canada, Mexico, Chile, Korea, South Korea, and India. People are doing these things. Like, I went to the UN for this meeting, and I was sitting next to the ICT minister of Kenya, who's my old colleague, who created Wainachi, which is like founding Earthlink. So the techies are coming into government everywhere. And the president of France was at the Open Government Partnership meeting, and he said there's basically these two huge things that France are doing, and we're so proud because we're hosting COP21 and we're hosting the Open Government Partnership. Now, everyone knows what COP21 is, pretty much, agreements around climate change. Open Government Partnership was started by President Obama and 7 other leaders, and now it's 70 countries, civil society organizations like Freedom of Information Act and Open Government people, and techies. And they all are starting to meet and evolve government into the way we all want it to be. And it's fun that it's in France because they're having a hackathon, and we told them they should call it Code Civil, since they originally did the civil code with Napoleon, which is the basis for democracy. So we could have the Code Civil, which will be the code for democracy. So that's December 7th through 9th. And you can get involved in the regional state places and that, but it's really happening and it's very exciting. So I don't know, we can answer questions. Our teammates are amazing. One of the things about a new tech team is that if you start a new tech team, you can make sure it's gender balanced. The United States Digital Service is gender balanced at leadership levels and all throughout. Got much more racial diversity, and especially people from everywhere in our country. And one of the coolest things also is they come from Amazon and Facebook and Twitter and startups. And I have the founder of Twilio on my team, co-founder. I have the general counsel from Amazon, Alex McGilvery, who's a coder and lawyer. Like, we have amazing people. It's like an Olympic team of tech. And so if you come and do this, whether you come for a short rotation like a sprint, like 2 weeks, like we did a sprint on ISIL and how we're doing this fighting online in the marketing space with these guys around propaganda, and help the State Department think in a new way, because why would they know how to use any kind of advertising analytics or any of these things? And so we created the Global Engagement Center, which allows them to support many more voices instead of kind of tweeting it to us. And then things like how the president is communicating, we just sprint on that. So you can do sprints. These guys do sprints all day. So say which places you guys are in.
I'm at the VA.
So veterans, just say a sentence about what you guys are doing. Think of the veterans, the American veterans. And where were you
I'm
before?
on a project working to modernize. There's a big backlog of appeals.
So all the appeals, you guys have heard in the news, the appeals backlog. But think about the veterans. You come home, you need this country to help you. So we got to fix this. Where were you before?
I was at a really small robotics startup.
Good. So from robotics to veterans. Sabrina.
I'm Sabrina. I work with the State Department on immigration modernization.
And they worked a lot. The USDS team worked on some of the refugee work and just helping. Think about state. So we have to really modernize state because these are our incredible collaborators. And so they don't have shared docs. They don't have any of this stuff. It's super crazy. So we're fixing that. And they're so talented. And so how do we upgrade that? Yeah.
I'm with DHS.
So Department of Homeland Security.
Yes, and we work also on immigration, refugees, humanitarian issues, international trade, aviation security. My colleagues here can speak to more of that as well.
Yeah, so think about Department of Homeland Security is going to be working with the State Department and everybody. They're working on the homeland. And so all border control, so if children are coming up from Mexico, what do we do with them? How are you? And fabulous interns can come. Yay! On cybersecurity, which is really cool. And these guys were working on helping the academic world start to work with us better on cyber. So say more, you guys, about Department of Homeland Security team.
So I work
You have
on
to talk really loud.
All right. I work on the immigration modernization project, and we are helping the agency move from a completely paper-based process of processing immigration benefits to a more digital way of doing things.
Okay, so let's talk specific. If you lose your Visa card, how long does it take to get a new one? Like a couple days, maybe a week, worst case. If you lose your green card, how long does it take to get a new one?
6 months.
6 to 9 months. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I know not about immigration.
You can't travel, right? It's like a whole mess. So why are we doing that? Because we know how to do that. And we have the Americans who do that, so now we have the Americans doing that. Another thing you guys found was the trunks. So people don't have things like WordPress and document like adjudication processes and stuff. They don't have that. They're buying it from vendors. But if they don't have an architect, they're going to buy it from someone who says they can make it, which they can, but maybe that group's going to make it for like a gajillion times the price instead of something more simple and open source. We did the policy work around the open source policy, and now we can start to have the software be that way. And so you might still be buying from a vendor, but you're buying, in fact, almost always you're buying from a vendor. It might be off the shelf or it might be custom, but you're doing it in a way that is the most modern architecture that's better for America and the people who live here and the teammates who do this work, and actually for the contractors. Because a lot of the federal contractors have to keep these really retrograde systems running just to work with us, which is really bad for the economy and for our business and their general work as their enterprise. Yeah. So one of the ones we found, I don't know if you guys were there, but the documents, they were mailing them around in trunks. So you would get a trunk full and you'd be working on this. Maybe you're an expert on some part of the immigration process, so you're looking through somebody's application, and then you put it back and you send the trunks around. $300 million of postage. That's the budget of the Peace Corps. So we know how to fix that. And our teammates need us to show up. Because otherwise these incredible people are going to get it done however they get it done. And if they have to do that, they're going to do that. Because they're going to get it done for the American people because they're so mission driven. And so you guys are fixing that. I don't know. Okay, so any more DHS up here?
Yeah.
Where did you guys come from?
So I came from Twitter.
From Twitter?
Hello Wallet.
Hello Wallet?
White House Domestic Policy Council.
Yay, DPC. So you can think about the way our country is organized. So it's a little bit like in a company there's corporate and there's divisions. So corporate is the president's team, the executive office of president. So the Domestic Policy Council works on all of the issues domestic, like criminal justice and immigration and education and health and human services and healthcare and all that work. And then people like the National Economic Council, they work on economy. They're working with us on a lot of stuff for Department of Transportation about UAVs and self-driving cars and automation and spectrum. The National Security Council, Ambassador Rice, working on all of the stuff, anything we're doing outside with countries, whether it's security related or economic related or development related, like USAID. And so each of these groups, I'm in Office of Science Technology Policy with the President's Science Advisor, and so the President added a second assistant president, more of like an entrepreneur seat, and a science academic and R&D seat. And so these people, we work together like a faculty of a university. And so the DPC team is such a great team to work with. We just did something cool with them. Census, think about census. That is big data. It's the biggest data. It's like all of us for like 200 years plus. And so they now have a cafeteria and an innovation space next to it, and people have had 400 projects go through there, including software developer kits for cities and packaging up APIs so that we could do, there's a new thing, opportunity.census.gov, so we can do apps and solutions and features on behalf of data sets from the Department of Education, Department of Labor, HUD. How do you help with mobility? How do you get Redfin and Zillow, who have done this, and Airbnb to add features for 100% of the Americans, not just the wealthier Americans? And so we launched 26 apps with the DPC team on top of federal data. The President's opened 200,000 data sets. Do that. So these guys, that's what you were doing before, and now in Department of Homeland Security doing this work. Okay, cool. All right.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy. I was at Google and IBM before this. I worked with at the VA with Dan as well, and also a little bit with the President's Precision Medicine Initiative as well. And
Do you guys know the precision medicine? Precision
Sure.
medicine is personalized health.
And if you want to learn more afterwards.
So where were you guys before?
Living social.
Living Social,
Google and IBM.
Google, IBM, a startup, a cool startup. So people are coming from everywhere. The U.S. Digital Service just hit 200 people. The 18F team, Presidential Innovation Fellows, our team at OSTP and CTO team, all in, we have probably 450 people who've come to government who would have never planned to work in government. And the President's created a space for us to do this. People come for sprints. Sometimes they come just through APIs, so everyone can come that way. They come for sprints, they come for 1 year as Presidential Innovation Fellows. Some people come for like a 3-month tour. Some people come for 2 years. So it just depends, and again, it's happening in every country. We're also gonna host next week with the State Department 21 people, like think a mini Fulbright. So they're coming, 21 people from different countries who are doing the same thing as us are coming to work with us for 2 weeks. And that's mostly tour, but sometimes it's a sprint. We did a login and identity sprint with the UK team because they were already ahead of us at the Government Digital Service there. So it's cool. Yeah. Did we get, yeah. Hold on one more second. Did we get all the USDS, or did you say 18F test? Yeah.
We also have government employees here as well from NIST
And the NIST team, NIST, like, think of all the standards. Where are the NIST people? EPA? Commerce Data Service. Commerce Data Service is so cool. Okay? They just packaged up an API called Midas, and there's a hackathon on top of it for Hack the Pay Gap. And Secretary Pritzker said, you know, you really don't want to know the average weather in the country. You'd like to know your personal weather, right? Like you want to know your personal pay gap. And people have been building tools on top of this API so everyone can see their personal pay gap as well as push for things and really help us communicate and show, you know, how serious and detrimental this problem is to us, to our families, and to our country. I mean, right now, Silicon Valley and tech in California, 42% of California is Hispanic people, heritage, and 21% of them are women, and they make 55 cents on the dollar. This is really stupid. So what are we doing to fix that? But we can't fix it because we can't see it as a class thing, and so we have to do it with the data science. And so how cool are they that they're packaging it up and pulling in the developer community to try to see what we might see within our data. And it's cool because Benioff is going to be here tomorrow. The Salesforce team looked in their data and they realized that this weird thing, which was women were overpaid. And then they looked again and they saw women were underpromoted. And it really helped them debug what was the problem in their company and what did they need to start working on and doing the hard, heavy culture lift to change that quickly. And so, you know, it's in the data science that that's there. Okay, so any other people who haven't said that they're here? NIH, National Institute of Health. So precision medicine is a big part of this, data science, and the policy parts of this stuff are really important too. So the code side, hands on keyboard making stuff, the American people, ecosystem work like Hack the Pay Gap and data science and getting third parties to develop with us, and then policy. So what should be the policy of your data for you, for your own body, for your personal medical data? Should you own it? Should the companies own it? So the president feels very strongly that people should own their own healthcare data. And so that's a very intense policy conversation, just like the AI policy conversations or others. So we need tech folks like us so we get the architecture of it right. And Mina Shang just did an amazing thing with the teams where they, as they were working the policy, sort of agilely writing the text, they would make versions of what they thought that meant. And then the teams could say, oh my God, that's not what we meant at all, and they would fix the text. And so instead of doing it like something out there and getting it wrong, you can really sort of sprint together in ways that are really cool. All right, questions, please. Yeah. Okay, we were here first, then there's somebody. Yeah.
So I think it's great that all these data streams are coming along, and especially the people that we have, like people like you in this office. But as all these data streams come along, what are the privacy and security implications do you think, because of unconscious bias and
Right, so questions about data streams and privacy and bias and security. So that's why we need tech people in the room. We call it TQ, like IQ and EQ, because Dennis, who's the chief of staff of the president, says, we all see different parts of the elephant. And we don't have people who understand you can design something with security, in the design. You can design for ability and disability and features in the design. You can design for privacy in there. These aren't opposite things. These need to be part of the design plan, and you need to be thinking about the most modern possible way to do this, because these are the topics of our day, right? And so having people in there and having policy, and one of the great things they created for us was a thing called the Tech Policy Task Force. So in the president's team, there's the traditional policy councils, Office of Management and Budget, Office of Science, Technology Policy, Domestic Policy Council, National Security Council, but we have an overlay called the Tech Policy Task Force. I'm the chair, Alex McGovern is the vice chair, and all the tech folks in the White House come to that table, and we talk about whether it's cloud or the social media policy or open source, and the other colleagues are at it too, but we're not at their table, they're at ours. And so they can task us, and we can join their meetings, and they can task us to look at things like encryption and net neutrality and privacy and data portability. We're working on all of those issues. And so you have people who have built products for 100 million, DJ Patil, the LinkedIn data scientist, Alex, Twitter. So people at the table have built these products, so they really have struggled with those issues in the commercial sector. They can bring that lens in. So it's very, very important for us to show up to those meetings and be part of that. And then like open source, I remember the economics teams were really thinking through like, does open source break this? But why would they know a lot about how open source works in the commercial sector and worrying about how that will affect the vendor base, et cetera. And so we could talk through the kind of experiences we already have and bring that knowledge, and then you can move forward and set the bar high for the pilots for open source, which the federal CIO, Tony Scott, announced. And then you run an OMB process to really do interagency and catch all those things. So it's cool. Yeah.